Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program of Advancing the Cause. This program comes to you every Wednesday night from 18:30 hours to 20 hours. The official host of this program is the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AA, MP, and General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. Miss McDonald is otherwise engaged, and therefore she is not going to be hosting this program tonight. And I want to now tender an apology for her not being on this program tonight. My name is Dennis Jaikran, and I would be hosting the program tonight. Our topic tonight would be declining standards in Guyana. And we would have indicated to you time and again on this program that our topics that are there are derived from the interaction, the submissions, and that contact that this program would have had with so many persons, teachers, public servants, parents, members of the Guyana Police Force, member of the Guyana Defense Force, the prison service, farmers, market vendors, taxi drivers, and a whole host of people that we get into contact with on a daily basis. And so, based on what they provide for us in terms of the content, they also help us in formulating what is the subject, the topic rather. When we met the last time on this program, meaning when I hosted the program some 2 weeks ago, I indicated to you that there is going to be no topic for that program then, but we would be discussing issues based on a number of areas in which persons would have expressed concerns. And so tonight, we are going to be dealing with a number of areas as it relates to this particular topic, declining standards in Guyana. And one of the first topic we are going to deal with would be some education matters. We are going to deal with some health matters. We are going to deal with some enforcement agency matters. We are going to deal with contracts and the budget 2025. And then we are going to deal with some general issues. And so tonight, viewers, I want us to start with education matters or issues. One of it, or the first of it, would be that during last week, it is alleged that there would have been 3 engagements or what you call fights at a particular secondary school in Region 2. And you might want to know why we would have started with that on this program. We would have started with that because of the concerns of the parents and teachers of that particular school that brought to our attention, meaning this program, what took place at that particular secondary school. And so it had to be, and not because of the students or the learners, so to speak. It had to be that way because at that same secondary school, both the head teacher and the deputy head teacher being friends, families, and favorites of the PPP would have been administratively appointment to those positions without due procedure, meaning that there was no public advertisement to fill those vacancies and all the things that would have followed thereafter until the time of selecting persons to be head teacher and deputy. So why I bring that to the attention of the viewers? I am making these linkages, so to speak, because it is of poor management of that school. And because it was poor management, or it continues to be poor management, these things are happening. Poor supervision of the teachers, poor supervision of the students, and therefore these fights would have come out of not having the requisite administrative supervision in the school. But not only that, recently there was an administrator appointed to the school, pitchforked into that position, so to speak, without due procedure, meaning no public advertisement, no interviews, nothing of the sort, but there was an appointment made. And so, despite the fact they are doing all these things, it is not going the way it is supposed to go as a secondary school. And not I'm labeling that secondary school. I am pointing out the fact that when you appoint people administratively, head teachers and deputy, and when you pitchfork an administrator that is not fit to perform such duties, then on the other hand, there's a school board with members comprising of members who do not have a speck of what education delivery, especially at the secondary level, should be. And so these are all things that are causing what is happening there to happen. But let me just remind our viewers of why is it both the head teacher and the deputy head teacher who were appointed administratively, there's a story to that. Because the now head teacher of that school would have been the deputy head teacher at a particular time when that new school building would have been constructed and the school would have been accommodated elsewhere in another secondary school. And during that period, the school board, the Department of Education, Region 2, the Education Committee, they all gathered together to make a decision that the legally appointed head teacher should not go into that new school to manage that new school. So they instructed, allegedly, the Redo of the region, who was then acting, to write such letter and to take it on a Sunday night to the home of the legally appointed head teacher to cause her to go on early retirement with all her benefits. That is illegal, that is improper, and therefore we are calling out the viewers tonight so that you can be the eyes and ears of those who are discriminated in the education system or any system in this country. And so there is where we are having what is known as declining standard in the education system and in Guyana. You know, matrimony activities are normally held during 2 months, including all the different competition until the national competitions are held, January and February. Athletics championships starting from the inter-house to the national level would be during the first term of whichever academic year, or what we refer to as the Christmas term. And that is finished and done with during the first term. And so what is happening? There might have been some agreement with the Ministry of Education and some set of people, maybe the same set who betrayed our teachers as it relates to the increase in salaries that were not in keeping in line with what they should have received. And so we now have both the matrimony celebrations and we have athletics championships, so to speak, starting from the inter-house until nationals in the same term. So what do you expect? It is confusion. But let me stick a point there and tell you what is happening. Today is Wednesday. And it might be in other regions also. This is midweek. And can you imagine that the children of nursery, the learners of nursery, primary, and secondary school, including their teachers and parents, were all called out on a Wednesday midweek to be part of the road march. So let us spread it to show. Once they know that they would have been involved in this, the teachers, the learners, and the parents, they would start that preparation since Monday. They would be tired tomorrow, which is Thursday. And then they are going to be in the season, so to speak, the matrimony season on Wednesday. So you continue to kill a whole week of learning in the nursery, primary, and secondary school. And so teachers are complaining, head teachers are complaining, parents are complaining. And today I understand that they took out the 4th and 5th form students who are all part and parcel of preparation for CSEC, the 4th form next year, and the 5th form this year. And so they are taking away contact hours from those learners. And added to that, during this term, there's going to be the National Grade 6 assessment a couple mornings from now. And so when you bring two major activities, condensed, so to speak, in one term, then you are allowing our learners, the National Grade 6 learners, as well as CSEC, to cause them to be frustrated. And so parents are concerned, head teachers and teachers are concerned, these learners are all concerned, but those who are making the policies as it relates to education they are not concerned. And so the question is asked, do they care or do they have an interest, the policy makers, in what is happening in the school system? And that is why we come back to the topic we are dealing with, declining standards in Guyana. And so where are we going as it relates to this whole question of putting into one term, so to speak, two major activities that would have normally been spread out during the first and the second term of the academic year. And so we call this program is Call It Out. The policy makers to have a look as to what decisions they would have made as it relates to causing confusion in the education system. But when our teachers speak out of these things that are happening, all these infractions, they are targeted. And so they have to be very careful and mindful because these things are happening. So this program thought it fit that we should bring it to the attention of all our viewers. In the last program, we spoke to you about this concept of pornography. And it is alleged that it is not only what we would have mentioned on this program, the Anna Regina car park, where this gentleman is doing what he has to do, allegedly engaging our children of secondary schools, the students, the learners of the Guyana School of Agriculture, Esquivo branch, allegedly, and the Esquivo Technical Institute, allegedly. This program would have been advised, allegedly, that this same gentleman is supplying such a trade also at a charity market where more of our secondary school children are put into the practice of pornography. This is a serious matter. And at this stage, like we would have done the last time, we are calling out on the commandant of Region 2. We are calling out the regional education officer, Region 2, and we are calling out all the schools welfare officers of Region 2 to engage this situation. And I want them to listen to me very carefully. It might be good if they can engage this situation to protect our learners. To protect our learners. But you know, in these days when these things happen, money is such an evil thing that there's always compromise, so to speak. And our learners are all the sufferers in these cases. And so again, this is another concern of declining and it might not be only in this region. It might be across regions of this country. But this program, because it has been informed allegedly we are bringing these things out. And so we now turn to another situation that we would have already discussed the last time. And this particular subject, so to speak, would have raised many, many concerns. And more people are speaking to this particular issue. And some school administrators, some connected to the affected schools and some not, have indicated that they are concerned about what is happening, where we would have explained the last time on this program that there is an established pavement on the western carriageway of the main public road from where the Anna Regina Secondary School is, and it goes north and it goes south. But it comes to north from the beginning of Anna Regina to the end of the High Bridge area, so to speak. That entire stretch of the pavement is totally taken over and occupied by very unprincipled and unscrupulous businessmen who are all friends, families, and favorites of the PPP, protected by them for being in illegal activities, meaning taking up the pave, so that our learners, our teachers, and other road users are forced to take the main carriageway and putting themselves in danger. And so, because of the concerns that we raised the last time on this program, and because persons are following us, and because they are informing us and advising, we would have been so advised that we should speak about it once more. And we are speaking about it because we are calling out the authorities. I know they are listening. We know they are listening to this program. And we are calling out the authorities to ensure that they protect our road users, meaning more the pedestrians, who would comprise of our learners and other persons that are forced not to use the established pavement and to use the main carriageway, putting themselves in danger, so to speak. And there are authorities that are responsible. And at this stage, we want to call them out as it relates to this whole question of the safety of road users. Under education, we want to turn to an aspect of what you call dietary, and that is why we are blending these things and we are receiving information, and that is why we speak to these things. And we are properly informed about these things. And so there is a line item that you call dietary. And across this country, where we have dormitory facilities for our learners, billions of dollars are spent in providing dietary items for those learners who reside in the dormitories across this country. That line item is 6292. And every year, billions of dollars, as I would have said, are allocated under this line item. But when we speak about billions of dollars on the line item 6292, dietary, the question that is asked, are our learners residing in those residential schools or institution, are they fully benefiting from such a spending? The answer is a direct no. And why so? Because the quality of items provided to those dormitory facilities, and if you are to classify by grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, grade 5 being the lowest quality of goods and services that are provided, then our learners are receiving the grade 5 quality of goods and services provided by those suppliers who are all friends, families, and favorites of the PPP. And not only that, it is alleged that quantities of supplies or items that are supposed to go to these dormitories, that quantity is not received by these institutions, allegedly. And in some cases, it is also alleged that none of these items are supplied, but two things happen. They are fully accounted for in the books. And the second thing is that they are paid for. And so when these things happen in the system, declining standards in Guyana, our learners who are not at their homes, far away from their homes, are made to suffer as it relates to what the state is providing. And mind you, they would go about this place and say that the government is providing, or the PPP is, that is not the government money. It is not the PPP money. It is the taxpayers' money. It is the state money that is providing an opportunity for our children who cannot access education nearer to where they live. They have to be provided an opportunity in these dorms to reside. And the state has a duty to ensure that they are properly fed. But there's total short-changing as it relates to the quality, poor quality, less than what is paid for in some cases, none supplied in some cases as paid for but properly accounted for allegedly, and our learners become the sufferers, so to speak. And so, in very many cases, the heads of these learning institutions are complaining bitterly. Those who provide instructions to those learners, whether it is at secondary school or these technical institutes where dorms are provided, they are complaining. The learners are complaining. But there's nobody to respond to their concerns. And there is need for us to better understand that we need to account for these sums of monies that are allocated every year for all of these dorms across this country. Under line item 6292, dietary. And at this stage, it might be good enough for us to call out the Minister of Education, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education, the Chief Education Officer. By the way, please note that the Chief Education Officer, it is alleged, would have ceased to issue any memo or any circular because it is alleged that he would have said elsewhere that we are calling out him on his program as to his poor presentation, bad language, construction, punctuation, and as a result of that, he is very scared, allegedly, as told to some persons, to now provide our instructors, meaning her teachers, lecturers, and principals, with circulars and memorandums. But he has to correct himself if he is in the process of a withdrawal syndrome. It is not going to help the gentleman. He is in a big position that he was pitchforked into, and he has to be very thick-skinned to be able to receive criticism that would cause him to grow into, if he's not yet matured for the position he holds in a pitchfork way, so to speak. So we are calling him out for this here. We are calling out all the regional education officers that would have responsibilities wherever these dormitory facilities exist, to take a stronger look as it relates to their, especially regions, especially like regions 2, 7, and 9. And more so, we call out, because this is money, billions of dollars spent on dietary items and cannot be properly accounted for. We are calling out the Accountant General, the Finance Secretary, who is always at Public Accounts Committee. We are looking at it. We are going to change it. We would have made some proposals. And all these things he would have said at Public Accounts Committee meetings, promising the nation, those are all empty promises. But he was also pitchforked into a position that he has no experience with or cannot function. And he has still not adjusted because he doesn't know what he is doing. And so we call him out as it relates to this matter. Office of the Auditor General, as I said, because there is total shortchanging our learners who are away from home, and the state, the taxpayers, are providing for them adequate sums of money so that dietary item under 6292 are so provided for them, not shortchanging them. Again, declining standards in Guyana. Now, you know, and I'm speaking specifically of a dorm, so to speak. And I want the viewers to know Once upon a time, I served as regional executive officer of Region 3, Essequibo Islands, West Demerara. And the proposal for us to have a dormitory at Lenora Secondary School, the compound, so to speak, came out of work programs and budgets while I was there. So I'm making a point. You can draw your conclusion. But there is a dorm at the Lenora Secondary School. Many things are happening there. Many things are hidden there. It is not coming to the public because it is known only among a few persons. But those pieces of information are now getting out. Let me tell you two of them. One would have been sometime last month that there was a serious situation in which there was found in the refrigerator in the dormitory, allegedly, 2 bottles of salted water put in the refrigerator. And it would have been those same 2 refrigerators that our learners who reside there are made to put items for themselves. But luckily, it is not our learners. And sadly, it was allegedly employees of the dorms who had the glorious opportunity of engaging themselves in the taste of what would have been in those 2 bottles. That is an indictment. That is a serious situation. I understand that some level of investigation would have started, would have concluded, and that nothing would have been done for not only the safety of those who are employed there, but for the learners that are there far away from their home. Up the Demerara River, up the Essequibo River, up to Macaura on the Essequibo River, and up to Santa Arata on the Demerara River. People, learners from those areas, or those stretches, so to speak, that I mentioned just now, are there. And so this is cause for concern. But how do we put it? It is cause for concern. But how is this matter addressed? Because you see, you want to call out people or persons who hold offices. And there's a gentleman who sits in high position of administration of that region, a secondary school dropout, a person who has no spot. And I remember saying, no spot, so to speak, of administrative ability. But he again was pitchforked into that position. And that is why a couple months ago, that the entire West Demerara Regional Hospital, because of negligence by this allegedly school dropout person, rats were running about the place on all of our patients that were there. And our doctors and our nurses at that hospital had to seek shelter away from those rats. Right? Why? because this goodly gentleman who is a school dropout thought it fit that he should use rat poison to poison the rats, didn't recognize that he was doing not only a disservice to the rats, but he was doing a total disservice to our doctors, our patients, our nurses, and all other health providers that were there. So I put an appendage to it there. Now, bringing out aspects of administration to show why is it that in Guyana, we have a system of falling standards. And we have pointed out that, and we want to be able to allow our viewers to understand that. You know, every year, there is a particular sum of money allocated for weeding and cleaning of school compounds. And there has never been, in the past 4 years, any serious way in which the Office of the Auditor General pay heed to that. Because you know that contracts for the weeding and cleaning of school compounds, because this is under education, contracts for 2025 would have been signed, breaching all procurement procedures. There was no public advertisement. There was no evaluation of, because there was no tender. There was no award of the tender board. And persons, it is alleged, who are friends, families, and favorites of the PPP were handpicked and given contracts. Not only that, it is alleged that some members of the regional administration of these regions, the education departments in some of these regions, are all allegedly given contracts for weeding and cleaning of schools without the requisite submissions of documents. This is an infraction as it relates to the Procurement Act. And therefore, this program is seriously calling out the Auditor General, the Office of the Auditor General, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Regional Local Government and Regional Development. And the last time we spoke on this program, we said to you that we were looking at the Committee of Supply when the Minister of Local Government and Regional Development would have been asked question and the level of hostility meted out to those who asked the question is a clear indication that we are in declining standards in Guyana. And so we are calling out the Minister of the Ministry of Education, the Permanent Secretary, the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, the man who always sleeps while in Parliament for Public Accounts Committee meeting, and when any question is asked of the REOs, and he thinks that it is difficult because he doesn't have to answer it, he looks elsewhere. He looks elsewhere. And so it is time for accountability of government funds. It is time for a list of all of these contractors to be published so that persons would know, because that is due procedure and they have to publish that. We want to see that. We are calling out on these different regions to so submit that information to not only the National Tender Board, but to the Procurement Commission, so that these names can be so published. And where is it? They were awarded contracts. You know, we finished that aspect of the contracts. But there are serious allegations, and we come to the next point, which says contracts awarded to staff members of the Department of Education and head teachers and teachers of some school. You know, time and again, this program was so advised, and it is alleged that a certain school's welfare officer from a particular region would have been subcontracted rather a contract allegedly to do work at the Mazruni prison. And this school's welfare officer resides in a region not far away from Region 7. And it is further alleged that the same school's welfare officer is a major contractor, not himself alone, but allegedly other officers of the Department of Education where he works and in the region he works. There are head teachers and head teachers who are favored by the regional administration of that particular region because they are all friends, families, and favorites of the PPP and are granted massive contracts, both civil works and supply of goods and services, without submitting the requisite requirements, so to speak, as it relates to what is it should be there for them to so be awarded contracts. This is a serious indictment. And why it is serious? Because all of these officers or levels of officers and paid state employees, while they are engaging in a second work, contracted work, they are neglecting the education system. And that is why we have so many problems across this country in our schools. Because instead of supervising and managing what they are paid for, they spend more of that time allegedly on the contracts that they were awarded. And so when you ask the question, why is it this education system is so faced with so many problems? It is not only as a result of the bad policies as set out by the Ministry of Education. It is also because of poor and bad management of the system as it relates to supervision of our schools and our learners. The schools, meaning the teachers, the head teachers, and the learners as it relates to the instructional program and the other records that ought to be kept by our head teachers and teachers. There is need for a serious look at this. And therefore, I am now calling out in a very special way the Minister of Education, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, the Chief Education Officer, and the Office of the Auditor General. The Office of the Auditor General, because these are persons, offices rather, that ought to take a serious look at what is happening in the delivery of education in Guyana. School boards, another subtopic. This program allegedly would have been informed that an immediate past chairman of a particular school board of a TVET institution caused himself and some selected board members of that particular TVET institution to hold a fundraising activity in the form of the barbecue in an effort to allow them to be paid stipend. Among them, it is alleged there is a pastor who is part and parcel of this planning execution. And there would have been no financial statement because the head of that particular TVET institution could not have asked any question. But it is alleged that the DCO admin, sorry, not admin, technical, a man who does know anything of the office he holds, would have been allegedly the person who advised on this course of action so that they can raise that fund. An immediate past chairman of a particular TVET institution board and would have been allegedly paid stipend to themselves without having any financial statement. This is a serious situation. This is an indictment on what education ought to be. And mind you, it is alleged that this same immediate past chairman of the school board was very hostile to the head of that TVET institution, but he had to be hostile because he didn't know A, B, C, or D. He doesn't know anything. Likewise, all the members of the then, maybe one or two, they extracting them. But the present school board as constructed now, in that same TVET institution, they are all total misfits. Basic things they do not understand. And the head of that TVET institution would have always complained that as soon as some members of the board meet there, they want some kind of relief or filling of their stomachs in some way or in any form. You know what was recommended recently by that same school board? There was plant fruit trees in the compound of the TVET institution compound. And so that they would use that. I don't know for what. That is a clear indication that they are not thinking of, or they do not understand what a TVET program or a technical institution program or a home economics program they are all about. And that is why they make these silly mistake because of not having knowledge. But they are all friends, families, and favorites of the PPP, and they are contributing to declining standards, not only in the education system, but they are contributing to the decline in education in this country. Mind you, education would have been on the decline since when it was. And if you don't believe, here this one here. In 2019, under the coalition government, the budget for education was $52.2 billion, and the matriculation rate was 49%. 49% matriculation rate with a budget in 2019 of $52.2 billion. Here this one. In 2023, with a budget for education at $94.4 billion, the matriculation rate was 26%. Can you imagine that? And here it is, further here it is. During the period 2020 to 24, a total of $382 billion, $382 billion would have been allocated to the Ministry of Education. And it is shameful to know that the matriculation rate fell from 49% in 2019 to 26%. Declining standards. Declining standards in the education system, declining standards in Guyana. Now, I said earlier on that this term, they have factored in two major programs: athletics championships and matrimony. And so it is alleged that the head of a TVET institution in Region 3 would have been seconded or placed at the Department of Education, allegedly on a full-time basis, to cause them to be able to organize activities and events related to matrimony 2025 and the athletics championships. It is further alleged that this same head of TVET institution is paid by the state and the taxpayers of this money to be part of the team that is paying cash grants. It's paying cash grants. It is further alleged that this same person would have been seconded or placed at the Department of Education to help organize matrimony activities last year. And while our teachers would have been on the protest line, he failed in very many instances to show himself. to show himself. If by chance you recognize who this head of this technical, vocational, or this TVET rather, institution is, and if by chance such a person would have presented him or herself for any office of the upcoming GTU elections, you know, by virtue of what is happening and his or her performance not representing our teachers, I say to you seriously, do not consider that person to hold any office in the Guyana Teachers Union. You cannot have people who betray people, our teachers rather, and put them into position to further betray them later on. It is not going to work. And so you have to make that choice, teachers, as it relates to the next G2 election. Next. Let me turn our attention quickly to, and I've been speaking about this for a time, rental of buildings. In 2023, a sum of $12 million was allocated for the rental of buildings on the line item 6241. And that is specifically the Department of Education Region 2, this program is referring to. So it is cause for concern because persons, viewers, and other persons are asking the question, if such sums of money would have been spent, $12 billion for the rental of buildings in 2023, the questions that are asked: one, where is this building located? Where is the building located? What is the name of this building? What was the purpose of renting this building? And so these questions would have been asked by this program. And we put these questions there so that you know, the viewers would know that we have total interaction in the various communities. And so it might be good enough if the regional education officer, whoever it would have been at that time, 2023, can be made to account for such sums of money. The REO also, because the REO might have been misguided, we don't know. We are only alleging. And the REO might have signed on as it relates, because it is there in the 2023, it is there. And let me just point to it here so that you would know that I'm not speaking out of turn as it relates to this here, this matter. It is right here, Agency 72, Region 2, Pomrun, Supranam, details of current expenditure, program details, program 724, education delivery, budget 2023, 6241, rental of buildings, $12 million. It is right here. It is stated. So that is not something that we are picking out or plucking out from our heads. It is there. And it is serious indictment on the part of whomever would have been at that particular time the regional education officer. And so it is time for us to call out to those who are placed in position to account for taxpayers' money, state money, because we need accountability for every cent that is spent in this education system. We are calling out the Office of the Auditor General, and we are looking for the 2023. I'm going to go back. I understand that is somewhere wrong, but I'm going to check it out and I'm going to bring it to the attention of this program, whether it was mentioned there or not. And so when we say to you, then we ask the Auditor General. If it is not mentioned in the 2023 audit report, we ask why it is not. And the public needs explanation. They are not paying themselves. They are paid by taxpayers' money. They are paid by state money. And if persons holding public offices think that individuals or agencies cannot ask that question, there are ways and means of getting the answer, because we are going to keep harping on it there. Now, let us quickly turn our attention to a few health issues. Shortage of drugs and medical supplies. This program indicated to you some time ago that there would have been serious shortage of drugs and medical supplies. And there was a situation in which a doctor of the Dietary Health Center indicated that a simple tablet like Panadol was not available at the health center. And so when this was put in the National Assembly some time ago, maybe last week or the week before, Frank Anthony, the Minister of Health, jumped to the roof of wherever the National Assembly would have been held, shouting on the top of the voice that there was availability of enough of drugs and medical supplies, including the Panadol, that the doctor related that was not there. This is shameful, because I have before me here from a certain health institution a prescription to go for this person to go out of, because it is not available. And I want Frank Anthony to listen. And this prescription is dated the 9th of February. And among the items, drugs and medical supplies that would be on this prescription, one is Panadol. One is Panadol. And this prescription was given to somebody from one of these health institutions. Yet the Minister of Health jumps up and shouting on top of his voice that such items are available at every health institution across this country. This is the evidence that was provided, but we are handing this back. We cannot recall the name of the person that would have handed this here, but we are grateful for this information. Continue to supply us with these bits of information so that we can share it. And when people doubt these things, we bring it to your attention. And so I think it is very, very shameful to make a representation like that misleading the general public. And the evidence is before us as it relates to that prescription given to a particular person who went to seek medical attention. Let us now turn our attention to a very serious situation in the health service. I understand that sometime next week, this week rather, there's going to be the float parade. And regions are participating. But I have also before me here that was sent to this program a letter from a particular public health institution seeking donation for participation in the float parade and Mashramani activities, asking for donation from the public. Let me further say to you that the person who signs this request for this donation would have indicated that the person is a senior clerk of that health institution. But this program would have been advised that this person would have also been pitchforked in that position because the person does not meet or would have the necessary requirements for appointment to such a position. And here how it happens. From a pathway worker appointed straight to a senior clerk, breaking every aspect of public service rules as it relates to filling of vacancies. And this is a senior position in the public service, and such advertisement would have had to come only from the Public Service Commission under the rules. And this program is told allegedly that this same pathway worker as pitchforked into this senior clerk position, appointed so to speak, does not have the necessary requirements for such an appointment. This here is a serious indictment. In addition to that, this same health institution that this person would have signed this letter, and this person is responsible for the day-to-day management of that institution, minus health issues. At that same institution, it is alleged that very many items are missing and cannot be accounted for. These items are all missing and cannot be accounted for. And so, once these items are missing and not cannot, I understand the RHO of that region and the the hospital administrator who takes care of that appendage to the main hospital in that region. They are both busy in trying to have transfer from the main health institution to that subsidiary health facility another person to go and clean up the mess as done and created by a person who is not adequately qualified, would have been appointed, so to speak, allegedly, because of total affiliation, moving from a pathway worker to a senior clerk, friends, families, and favorites of the PPP. And this here needs to be investigated in the public's interest. And so, as I said, both the RHO and the hospital administrator are busy trying to correct what they cannot correct because the items allegedly cannot be found. And this is the time for us to be able, this program, to so call out the Office of the Auditor General to ensure that justice is done to taxpayers of this country and taxpayers' money as is spent in these health institutions. And so it is also alleged that this same hospital administrator would have passed retirement age a very long time and would have not yet been retired despite the fact allegedly meeting the age of retirement. It is further alleged that this same hospital administrator is using the position vested to cause and to instruct employees of the institution, health institution, that this hospital administrator is managing, to cause these employees to go to the home in another region where this hospital administrator resides to do works as it relates to electrical work, plumbing, and other repairs to the home of that hospital administrator. This here is a serious indictment. And if any of those employees who are part and parcel of this illegal instruction given to them, I want to advise them, if by chance and God forbids anything happens to them, that they would not be covered in any way or in any form by NIS or on the work situation. And we need to call out this hospital administrator for three things right now. One, the disappearance of items that cannot be located at the subsidiary health facility in that region. Two, calling out that same hospital administrator to ask to tell the public why is it this hospital administrator allegedly meeting retirement age and is still on the work. And the third thing for the hospital administrator to answer to the public, why is it this hospital administrator is causing, instructing, and directing employees of the main health institution of a particular region to travel to another region so that work can be done on the home, electrical, plumbing, and other works, civil works, on the home of this hospital administrator. At this stage, whoever are the authorities and whoever are the persons listening to this program, it is only fitting that we call out at this stage the persons who are responsible for this very serious indictment as it relates to that situation. Weeding and cleaning of health compounds. Early on I said when we were dealing with education that there are total infractions and betrayal of what is there in the Procurement Act. And so across this country, for all the health institutions, hospitals, health centers, health outposts, and all other facilities that are managed by the Health, Department of Health, Ministry of Health, that contracts would have been awarded already for 2025, signed and awarded, not following the prescribed regulations or the Procurement Act. No public advertisement, allegedly, no evaluation committee, no tender board approval, and it is further alleged that within the circle of friends, families, and favorites of the PPP and employees therein in these institutions and their families again are all allegedly granted contracts for weeding and cleaning of these health facilities across this country. This is a serious indictment, and there is need for the Auditor General to be called upon to be able to answer this particular question. As said and mentioned while we were discussing education, also in health, under the particular line item 6292 Dietary, every year billions of dollars are allocated and spent for these persons that are patients, so to speak, in hospitals across this country. And it is again alleged that they do not receive, allegedly, quality goods and services. It is alleged also that there is shortage when supplies are made, fish, meat, and what have you. It is also alleged that in some cases that items are not supplied but are allegedly fully accounted for and paid for. In some cases, it is alleged because of friends, families, and favorites providing cow's milk for the patients that when tested at a particular health institution, that 80% of that content contains water, 20% is milk, and 80% is water. But it happens this way, and the patients that are using these things are made to suffer. But because friends, families, and favorites are the suppliers of this particular item, cow's milk, it is compromised as it relates to the amount of water, 80% water in it. And so, this is not only that, it is a sin. And it is time for us to call out the Auditor General and all those who are concerned. And the last thing I want us to speak about, as we have been saying, that it is total failure of these enforcement agencies, EPA, NIS, GRA, Ministry of Labor, and GPL, as it relates to the operation of an illegal and unauthorized workshop in a residential area, causing noise, dust, and chemical pollution. And all these persons that are there in these institutions or enforcement agencies, let me advise the viewers that they are all paid by taxpayers of this country. They are all paid by state money, and they are all failing in their duties as it relates to protecting persons that are totally affected. GPL is a compromised institution. NIS is compromised. GRA is compromised. Ministry of Labor is silent and does not apply to, does not attend to persons' needs and concern. EPA is so compromised that whatever kind of piece of equipment they have, they are a waste of time. And this program is calling them out again for attending to that illegal and unauthorized workshop in a residential area, causing noise, dust, and chemical pollution. Viewers, I think we had a very, very extensive program tonight, and I want to thank you very much. I want to ask of you to continue to allow us to benefit from you making your suggestions and recommendations so that we can continue this program informing persons of situations and matters of concern. Once again, thank you very much. May God bless you and have a wonderful night.